Welcome to the Mostly Put Out at Night. Mostly, I am Salem, joined by my co-host Graveyard.
Blue.
This is episode 31 of our weekly All Things Horror podcast. Ow! Right in the childhood. Join us as we discuss and review movies about childhood favorites turned horror. Be warned, spoilers ahead for the newest entry in this list, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which just came out this week. We'll also be going over Pinocchio's Revenge, the Banana Splits movie, and Willy's Wonderland.
Yes.
We will be starting out with the 1996 classic Pinocchio's Revenge, starring Vern Troyer.
Was it?
Yeah, he was the body double for Pinocchio, which I'm pretty sure after watching the movie, I'm pretty sure it was only like the silhouette scenes.
That's possible.
You know what I mean? Where they actually like showed him kind of sort of moving or standing in a doorway. I believe those are the scenes that it, but he was a body double for Pinocchio.
Interesting.
I was the only person in the entire credits that I knew who they were.
Correct.
So, Graveyard, why don't you take it away for us, buddy?
Yeah, so I thought this was initially an older movie than 1996 when I was looking up lists of things to go over. And there'd be no surprise to anyone who's seen this or will probably guess by the end of this as well. This was a straight to video release. It was never in theaters, never on TV. So if you're one of those lucky people like me who paid money to rent it in 1996 or 1997, you saw this just wonderful gem of a movie, right?
I never did. This is the first time I've watched.
Somehow I did. I don't know how. And I remember every moment of it too. It's been like 26 years since I've seen it. So anyway, it kind of starts off with a guy, I'd say in a trench coat and bearing a child, really, I'd say off the highway, but like 3 feet from the highway.
Yeah, he didn't do a very good job of getting off of the road.
No, and we had, the 13-year-old cop man.
Right.
He sounded like he was a 13-year-old boy, quite honestly.
I mean, maybe he was.
Maybe he was. So anyway, you see that while bearing this child in a yellow tarp, that there's also another yellow tarp, at least another one in the hole that this guy is digging. Man-boy cop shows up and tells him to freeze, and he does, surprisingly, and he has a shovel. Drop the shovel. That's what he sounded like to me.
I mean, that's fair.
Yeah. And they see that there's a boy there, and then there cuts to the next morning of a crime scene, and they like, oh, this guy, this was his kid, and like, there's another body here. And lo and behold, it's Pinocchio. He is a marionette puppet when he wants to be in the movie. I don't think they had him on the strings.
They conveniently show up when they're supposed to be there, but normally they are not there at all.
Yes, and at least they give a reason for it later on in the movie. So, and they're like, huh, and then 5 years later, and we introduced to the heroine, if you want to call her that, of the movie. She's a defense attorney. She's a public defense attorney. So, she's a lawyer that, for people that can't afford representation, she's assigned to them. She's been doing it for, I think they said like a year at this point. And she's now this guy who killed his kids on trial. And they're stating that there's, that he's, I don't know what they said, a serial killer, but there's no proof of serial killer.
Well, it's they do that sometimes, or it's a serial killer that they're pretty sure killed a lot of people, but they only really have the direct evidence of the one. Right. So they will convict him of the one and then kind of sort of sentence him as if he did the other ones.
Right, but the tabloids, all that stuff, are calling him a serial killer.
Yes.
Him not being charged as a serial killer. She's talking to him. He admits, like, yeah, I killed my boy. It just, What about this puppet? That was his favorite toy, so I buried him with it. There's, huh? And her
Now
boss,
this
he
must
looks
have been in Texas
something like that. Yes,
because I mean this is an extremely accelerated timeline for a death sentence to be carried out. 5 years from arrest to execution. That's crazy fast.
And her, the other lawyer she's going against, he's also flying back, and she just feels sick because she knows she puts trash out onto the street, but this time she believes he's actually innocent. This is the only first time she's been doing this job that she felt like her client was actually innocent of the crimes. Which said he admits it, I did it, and then he gets electrocuted. That was like I said, pretty damn fast.
Well, yeah, like I said, from arrest to execution in 5 years is extremely fast.
And then she witnesses it, and she gets a little sickened by it. You find out that she's a single mom, that the dad left a year before, that she has a new boyfriend who is not a gardener, but a landscaper. Her boss asked that, and she blatantly points it out: landscaper, not gardener. And in the weirdest twist so the movie could happen, she's able to take the evidence home of Pinocchio marionette puppet home with her. That should be in evidence lockup somewhere.
Well, yeah, but okay, so that would be evidence. But they pretended because they said that these were the things that he had with him when he got when he got interned to the prison, which is not true. There's no way he would have been carrying the puppet with him when he was brought to prison. That's not the way these things work.
Considering he was already brought to prison, and the next morning is when they found it, so he's already in prison.
Right. Right. When you get processed in prison, you have already been your trial is over.
Yeah.
These are things that you bring with you to its prison. It's usually just the clothes on your back and maybe a watch and a wallet or something. I mean, that's it. I don't know why this puppet would end up in there. I mean, I guess just to make the movie move along, but
sure, let's go with that. Blatantly false of the law. So clearly, this person does know law that wrote this movie and directed. We'll go with that. So like I said, single mom. It's her kid's birthday. She has a nanny because she's working so many long hours doing all.
She's an au pair.
An au pair?
Au pair.
Does she has a nanny?
No, the nanny isn't a nanny. She's an au pair.
Oh, because she lives there?
Well, an au pair is a person from a foreign country that comes and lives with you and traditionally helps with childcare and cleaning and stuff like that. But realistically, they're trying to get their visa, trying to get their foot in the door in the new country. So they're learning the language and getting
what nationality do you think she was? Because her
French.
Accent was all over the place.
It was all over the place, but I'm pretty sure she was trying to be French.
Okay.
Because au pairs are, well, I mean, it's a French word, so I'm assuming he's well, it's a French word. Let's just make her French.
Yeah, that's sure.
Genius.
Let's go.
Genius move.
Yes. So her daughter, she acts like she's supposed to be 6, but I feel like she's 11 or 12.
I don't.
She's definitely
I don't
older. But she loves stuffed animals, and it's her birthday, and of course the dad can't show up, and for some reason she's getting really busy. She came home from work. She has to take a shower and clean up, and took forever. The party was almost over.
Yeah, she was like, "Oh, I'm gonna go take a shower. Come and get me when the people get here." And then she's strolling out of the room, feels like hours later, and they're already leaving. The kids are already there, party's in full swing. What were you doing?
Yeah. But the boyfriend took all the birthday cake, all stuff out of her car, and of course she didn't remember present. But the boyfriend saw Pinocchio there, and because her daughter's in love with stuffed animals that she sleeps with, thought it was for her, even though she explained to her this is this isn't. You'll have this until you get your real birthday present. I mean, I don't know what's worse, having that taken away or find out that your mom actually didn't get you a present.
Okay, and I just want to be clear at this point. This is 30 minutes into the movie.
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear, nothing has happened with this doll. There's been no like creepy movement, no doll talking, no doll movement, no murders, no death, no nothing.
Mm-hmm.
This is now 30 minutes into the movie, and the child is just now introduced to Pinocchio.
Yes.
We
also find out that the kid is also in therapy because of her dad leaving. She gets in trouble at school. She gets into a fight with a snotty girl at school. So there's a little backstory there. She bites her ear or something.
Yeah,
that.
She pulls a full on Tyson, and she bites a chunk out of her ear.
Yeah, I mean,
and then everybody is kind of casually okay with it afterwards. Like, yeah, that's not okay.
Right. Well, she's being bullied. Yeah, she was.
I mean, yeah, she was, but still, something needs to be done.
And then I'll just say this now because they show so many shots of Pinocchio's blue eyes. So here's what I'll do. He had the bluest eyes instead of the darkest eye. Because they show it all the time.
Yeah, all the time. There's no movement.
Just the eyes.
No, nothing. They just show his face, and his eyes are looking up and to the left.
Yeah.
Like they're not even looking straight. They're looking up and to the left.
Correct.
And they constantly fade back to that over and over and over again.
Yeah. So she wants to go, the boyfriend does what I consider a really shitty thing. Right? She was kind of creeped out. She thought Pinocchio was creepy. Then he made Pinocchio, this is the only time it's a marionette puppet. He does a marionette thing and just tells the creepiest story of Pinocchio, how he's evil and has to have a conscience so he doesn't kill people. And then, here you go, here's your doll, go to sleep now. Right? Yeah. I mean, that's kind of shitty, I feel.
The whole thing is just stupid. I mean, shitty, yes, but stupid.
Right. And she goes to school with it first, correct? Before the scene I'm about to talk to, or no? Do they do it first, or does the school A first?
The school is first.
Okay, so she has Pinocchio. It just was almost her small child size. That's probably why they picked an older child for this, because it's already human sized as it was, small child size.
Well, it's Vern Troyer sized.
There you go. Yeah. So. She brings it to school, and the bully starts picking at her again, and easily throws Pinocchio over 12-foot fence.
Yeah, I mean, it's like solid wood. That thing is not easy. So a 6-year-old girl should be struggling to throw it over a 12-foot fence, but
no, she did it with the greatest of ease.
Yeah.
So the little girl shows to find it, and Pinocchio's holding on to a stick, like a broom handle almost. And we see the bully riding her bike, and she sticks out the pipe and into the spokes. She falls, and then she proceeds to get run over by a bus.
Right.
And survive. A bus over a small child, probably not going to live. Let's be honest. This is a full-size bus.
Right. And now just to clarify, this is 45 minutes into the movie.
Yes, we're almost done with the movie.
I'm just saying, 45 minutes into the movie, the first any kind of thing happens.
Yeah. But, the mom's creeped out by the doll because it was found next to a dead body and owned by a supposed child murderer of his own kid, right? And then, we hear the girl takes Pinocchio to therapy about it because obviously, they blame her for doing it. She's like, no, it was Pinocchio. I have to, blah, blah, blah. And she talking to Pinocchio, and you hear Pinocchio talk. But that's it. That's all you hear. And it's just really, oh boy, type of it was annoying.
Yes.
Okay.
And the doll does not speak or move until
Correct.
over an hour into the movie.
Correct.
Just to clarify.
Yes. So, she goes home. She's not in trouble. She sleeps with Pinocchio, and then her mom proceeds to do the landscaper, which the girl's able to clearly hear.
Well, I mean, okay. I mean, I understand single mom, hey, you need to get it on sometimes. No shame there. But
Yeah.
like, if you share a wall with a small child, like maybe tone it down a little bit. I mean, she was like full on into it, man. I mean, it was like they have the view of the little girl in bed, and you can like clearly hear what's happening. Like that's not a good, That's not a good thing.
So we get very brief nudity, and then it cuts to the au pair nude in the shower.
Oh yeah, of course you got to get it all out of the way.
Right. Yeah. So, and she's like, "What are you doing in my room?" Oh, Pinocchio was in your room, and starts arguing about that. Right. So then the mom's at a new case about a guy whose TV told him to kill the drug dealer, his dealer. Oh, so a program TV, not a program. The TV, it wasn't on. Yeah. Clearly crazy guy.
I mean, yeah, sure.
So she has this, and then they recorded him, the interactions, but she pointed out on the, she has like a mental breakdown briefly, goes crying in the bathroom because she has to stay late. No one can watch her kid, so she has to ask the boyfriend to watch her. And then like she comes out, she's like, his voice wasn't on the tape. Which, kudos to her. That is accurate. His voice was not on the tape that they had evidence of. The other lawyer's like, shit. So, essentially, this is where we kind of get our first kill, if you want to call it that. Not even a kill. More bodily damage. Yeah. So, the boyfriend's watching, the daughter tells her to go to sleep. All of a sudden, like, Pinocchio is supposedly seemingly walking towards him in the room, and nope, it is her holding it. So she goes back to bed. He has to go downstairs for something. I don't remember what it was for.
He goes by the basement door.
Yeah,
and then
Pinocchio
slams the door in his face, and he falls.
And then, like, a lot of the blood comes out of his head. Like it's like someone turned on the faucet, water coming from his head. Like,
well, they got to show that it hurt.
If it's flowing that fast, I don't think he's making it. But he survives this.
Yeah, I was gonna say I thought he was dead, but no, he's alive.
Right. So he's in the hospital, and then so someone so the nanny has to watch her. She's another I think the therapist calls and shows her the videotape of her talking to Pinocchio, but you only hear her arguing with Pinocchio. You don't hear Pinocchio talk. And then you see little girl someone sneaking out of the house, run to the hospital, and then literally pulling the plug on the landscaper. And then she gets a call saying he's dead. Call from his mom. Like, I just spoke to him. I was going to go visit him. That didn't happen. And then, there was mud on the daughter's pajamas and Pinocchio.
Well, here's the thing. It's kind of confusing as to what happens in that hotel room. Yeah. Because they didn't have the budget to even show like a Pinocchio hand like grabbing the like ventilator hose or even like pulling a plug out of the wall. So like literally they just show like a short camera coming into the room. Yes. And then it like pans over and then all of a sudden all the alarms start going off and they show the heart monitor go flatline and that's it.
Yes.
That's all that happens. There's no interaction. There's no action scene at all. It's like that's just what happens.
Correct. So now the landscaper is dead.
Right.
And she's talking to what happened next? She asked her daughter if she went there. She goes, no, I tried going there to see him, but I couldn't find my way. I got lost. I think Pinocchio went there, though, she says. So now the mom's starting really freaked out about Pinocchio. Is he moving? Is he alive? There's a scene of Pinocchio asking the little girl to cut his string so he can be free. So now he doesn't have to have the one scene of marionette puppet sticks.
Right. Yeah. And then she cuts the wires, and then he like moves away, but then again never moves on his own.
Correct.
Again until the very, very end. So it seems like a very pointless scene.
And then the climax happens. He kills the nanny.
Yep.
And then starts attacking.
With what, like a fireplace poker or something? I don't even know what that was.
Yes. A fireplace poker, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then goes after the mom, and she just like flips him to the glass table, and he stops moving. And then she looks back, and it's her daughter.
Right.
And then the daughter's like, Pinocchio never moved. Your daughter was doing all this. She's in trouble. She's like, oh, I'll get her out of here. Don't you worry. End the movie.
Yeah, well, the daughter's in the psych ward.
Yeah.
Yeah, the daughter's in the psych ward, and she's like in a catatonic state.
Right. So alluding to Pinocchio was never alive, and it was the daughter the entire time.
Right.
So, like I said, I'll go into my first thoughts on this. So this is probably only the second time I've seen this movie, but I vividly remember almost every scene from it. Like, nothing was new to me, despite it being at least 26 years since I last saw this. And, this is a hard movie to come by, first and foremost. Surprisingly, it hasn't gotten a 4K Blu-ray restoration yet, for some reason.
I don't even think it got a DVD release.
It did.
I'm sorry.
So I'm trying to remember if I rented it it had to be VHS at that point in time. So when I rented it, I didn't think anything of it because, like I said, I was, let's say 13 at that time. And that's why I started just diving into everything horror movies. And that's had to been under like a new release or new arrival. So I got it. And I, didn't know much about horror movies at that point in time, as much as I know now, obviously. And watching it again, I go, this is like, if it wasn't for some cussing and the nudity, this would have been like a sci-fi movie's take on Child's Play and their take on it. Like, that poorly written, that poorly acted, and just overall, like, I don't know. I feel like Jack Frost is better than this, or you might even call it in the same vein as Jack Frost.
Right. I mean, the main problem is here, like I was calling out that things had not happened in a certain amount of time because at any movie, I mean, especially a horror movie, something needs to happen. You can't just have all this goofy exposition. I mean, again, nothing even happens. Like the doll is not even introduced to the story until 30 minutes into the movie.
Right.
The doll does not have any interactions at all until 45 minutes into the movie. And again, you don't even see his hand or anything. It's just like you assume that Pinocchio is doing these things. And Pinocchio doesn't actually speak or do anything until after an hour has already passed. This movie is only an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like the pacing is so wrong in this movie. There's like, I mean, they could have, I don't know what they needed to do, but they needed to change the whole first and second act of this movie. I mean, honestly, they need to change the entire thing. But I mean, the whole first and second act is like just drug out. I mean, just boring. I mean, again, just horribly boring.
Yeah.
I had to pause it and go do something else like multiple times while I was trying to watch this movie because it was so freaking boring.
Now, granted, in Halloween, you have the first kill, you have another kill for 45 minutes, but there's tension being built up. You see,
right? There's
Michael
interesting
Myers
things happening.
Places.
Yeah, I don't need kills. I just need things happening. I need interesting stuff, or at least dialogue that I can like, oh, this is interesting, or something. There's nothing happening.
It is a law firm movie first. Pinocchio's Revenge.
It's ridiculous. It's so stupid.
So that's your first thought?
I did read an article that said that the reason that this movie was made was because of Mancini's original vision for Child's Play was actually closer to this movie than the actual Child's Play movie that came out.
That it wasn't going to be an actual killer. It's going to be a psychological trauma of a child. Yes.
Correct. Yeah, it wasn't going to be the doll that was the killer. It was going to be the kid, trying to blame the doll, but it was the kid all along. That's the whole reason why this movie was made, was because they wanted to oh, that's a cool, interesting idea. Let's do that. But unfortunately, they didn't know how to do that, and they did it in the worst way possible.
Now, do we think Child's Play is better not having that plot? Maybe. I mean,
again, could it have been done well and interesting?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Was it done well here? Absolutely not.
No.
And Child's Play went the more, the doll is the bad guy, and obviously that worked out because the franchise probably would not have happened if it went the other way.
If it was just Andy, well, I'm sure the studio didn't want the idea of a killer kid.
Well, yeah, of course, nobody wants a murderer child as the story. That's why they changed it, I'm sure.
But I mean, in Child's Play, that for a long while, obviously you have, as far as the adults are concerned, that it is the kid doing all this stuff. It is Andy. So from their point of view, it worked, and we don't get things it takes a while for us to see Chucky actually move too. But but again,
tension. Like the beginning of the movie, it's very obvious that the doll is bad, and you get little scenes here and there of the doll moving and doing things,
right?
So the doll is there. Like this movie, it's who knows what the hell is going on, because again, they don't even have the money to show a hand, doing anything. It's just this vague, weird, vision stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, whoever did this, it didn't even feel like they graduated film school. I mean, it's it's that bad.
Yeah. Highlights for me, like I said, I don't. Yes, is it bad? Yes. Is it the worst? No. I the highlight would be the idea behind it. At least, as you said, it's the idea of Child's Play, and the idea of it is good. It's almost like the good son meets a doll, right? That you don't expect kids to be evil. And I think if someone else took this story idea, it would have been a better movie. So the idea behind it, I liked. What about you? For highlights?
I mean, yeah, sure. The idea is okay, but I mean, this is the execution is so poorly done that I don't even want to give him credit for that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, highlights this movie. I mean, when it ended, and honestly, it was so bad. I had a hard time, very very hard time focusing. I'd say for an hour and a half movie, I think it took me 3 hours to watch it. Because I had to keep taking breaks and go doing other things and reading internet articles and stuff, just because I can't do this. I can only do it in small bites.
Right. So clearly 15 years ago, me clearly didn't know horror movies at that point in time to see it. So
yeah, unfortunately, I knew them all too well at that point. If I did see this movie, I knew it was junk and I left it on the shelf. I'm pretty sure I didn't see it, though.
I said that's just why I was just picking up every horror movie and running with it. So, low points: the movie, the acting, the script, special effects. We would call it that. The laziness, it's not even a slow burn. It's just slow.
Yeah, it's just bad. I mean, it's just plain as that. I mean, if I had to call it a low point, I would say again, I know I'm very harsh on child actors, but there's so many movies and shows that try to hinge things on child actors and they just can't pull it off. And it ruins the entire thing. And this one, the movie would have sucked regardless. But it's that much worse because this child who literally the entire story revolves around is horrible. I mean, can't act at all. I mean, just it is so bad and cringy, and it makes me angry whenever she's trying to show emotion because it's so badly done.
Yes, I almost feel like this is someone's daughter.
Yeah,
from the
again, it's
director.
again, I mean, low points is like the entire thing, but I would say especially low point is, again, just because it's a kind of a pet peeve of mine is that, when you hinge stories on children that can't act,
Mm-hmm.
it's upsetting. I understand they're children. I'm not trying to be an asshole saying try to hold them up to the same standards. I'm just saying, then don't hinge your story on it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Have them be a side character. Have them be an extra character. Don't hinge the whole story on a child and kind of rely on their acting ability to sell this story. You should never do that. Very rarely does it work out. Like Sixth Sense is one of the very, very, few examples you can give where it actually worked out. Most of the time it does not.
Yeah. When they're comedy horrors, they work, like Gremlins or Lost Boys or
but Lost
stuff
Boys
like
they
that.
were older. You know what I mean?
The Coreys weren't that much older.
I mean, they were like 12.
Yeah, they're not that much older.
Again, 12. At that point you can start being able to act. Again, I mean, there's a lot of bad acting at that age. I'm not saying that actors are burned in the crucible at that age. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that at 12 they're a lot more likely to be okay than they are as a child. I'm talking like child actors. I'm talking like 6 years old, 5 years old, 4 years old. They try to hinge stories and hinge emotional like revelations in movies and shows on these small children. And it's, again, I don't think it's fair to the child because, again, you should not be hinging it on them. You should not be relying on a 4-year-old's acting to sell your story. Like, of course it's not going to be good. They're 4 years old. I mean, there's so many examples that I could give you of just storylines that are completely ruined because they rely on children that can't act.
Pet Cemetery?
I mean, yeah, Pet Cemetery is one of them. I mean, you ever watch Sons of Anarchy?
No.
The last season heavily relied on a child actor selling this, like, I guess him like protecting his brother and trying to be violent, and it is like the worst thing I've ever seen. It is so bad. I mean, the show had devolved by that point to not be good anyway, but that just kind of set me over the edge. It was laughably bad.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many examples. Anyway, you can go ahead.
Yeah. That's all right. So we're doing, like I said, once again, our scales tend to not make sense that the ratings that we do it, but just because it's just out of 10, we're doing a number of childhoods ruined out of 10. Now, obviously, if this was the worst movie, we'd probably give this a 10 because it ruined a lot of people's childhoods. But we're doing that for this week. Man, what will I give this? I'm going to go with this 2. 2 childhoods ruined out of 10 on this. What about you?
Wow. I mean, I really dislike this movie.
Is it? It's not the lowest one.
8. It's a 0.8 out of 10.
All right, it's the third lowest movie we've ranked in our podcast.
Yes, so it's not as bad as Jeepers Creepers Reborn, and it's not as bad as Old.
Didn't insult your intelligence.
Pretty freaking close. Yeah, okay. Old insulted my intelligence. This doesn't do that. It just bored me to tears.
Yeah, that's fair. All right. Well, then, why don't you bring us into our next movie, the Banana Splits movie?
The Banana Splits movie, which is interesting enough, in an alternate Earth. Because on this alternate Earth, the Banana Splits somehow never lost their popularity.
50 years later.
And kept going. Even though in the real world, in our Earth, Banana Splits only went from 1968 to 1970. And that was it. They had really good ratings their first season and then horrible ratings their second season. It was canceled. That was it. So in this Earth, the Banana Splits kept going. So from 1968 to the present day, it is still happening. It seems to be declining a bit, but there's still several people say that it's a hit show. So
they sell out every showing, they said.
Right. Well, I mean, to be fair, their showing is only like
sold out.
Yeah, the showing is only like 20, 30 people. It's not a lot. But it's still saying something that, where however many years later they're still selling out the little audience. That's still a thing,
Yeah.
So anyway, on this alternate Earth, I was thinking maybe, I was like, is this maybe in the past or something? But no, then like they started using cell phones immediately. I'm like, okay, I guess not.
Yep.
So anyway,
this movie came out in 2019.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes place in 2019. So Banana Split started in 1969. 1968. So 51 years later and still running as a show. Yeah. Which is amazing.
Right. So anyway, so there's this kid, I guess kind of a weird kid. What do you say? He's like 8?
Yeah, let's go with 8.
Somewhere around there. He's like 8 years old. Anyway, so he's like obsessed with the Banana Splits still. And he only has like one friend, and it's his birthday. And so he's gonna go. His mom gave him presents to go see the Banana Splits live in the audience. But he's gonna bring his friend. His friend has the flu, so the friend can't go. And then they end up inviting some random girl from like his class, I guess, to go with him. But anyway, so her parents kind of force her to go along. So anyway, so essentially they go to this taping. It's mom, it's dad. Mom is like, kind of an earnest, hardworking mom who seems like she's kind of unappreciated. The dad is just kind of a jerk. He's just a very disconnected, apathetic, like jerk. Like he's not interested at all. Like even like insulting his own kid for still liking the Banana Splits and not caring what he's into.
Call him daddy. Yeah. So something to keep in mind is that this is the youngest dad, but not the oldest dad.
What?
His older brother.
Oh, yeah.
That's not his dad. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I also want to point out that I was watching this and Pinocchio's Revenge. I just want to say, I don't think we've ever mentioned this before, is that horror movies have always shown the broken family households. It's never a perfect mom, dad, and child. It's either, if it's mom, dad, kid's dead, and they're adopting another kid. But it's always never that nuclear, wholesome household family that you typically see in like sitcoms and stuff like that.
It is if something bad happens to them.
Right.
Like if it's like a home invasion or something, then it will be.
But rarely, usually it's like a stepdad or a second dad that's just an asshole. That really points out in this movie.
Right. Yeah. So the kid that likes the Banana Splits, that's his actual dad, is the apathetic jerk guy. And then he has an older brother who has another dad who's out of the picture.
Dead.
Right.
Yep.
So anyway, so they're going to this taping. The dad tries to weasel out of it and say he's just going to go to work instead, and he gets forced to go. So anyway, it's mom and dad, older brother, younger brother, and the girl that from his class. So the little girl is the same age as the little boy is.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they go to the taping, and they're enjoying the taping. And then behind the scenes, we see that the Banana Splits are actually robots. And they're like taking care of a guy, I don't know, he's supposed to be like 70 or something.
Yeah.
I think he's the guy that's been programming them since the day one. So the Banana Splits in this alternate universe are not people in costumes. They are robots wearing costumes. And they are programmed to be the goofy, lovable Banana Splits that people know. And anyway, they get programmed with basically the one thing: the show must go on. And of course, they kind of misconstrue what that means. And we say that because the show gets canceled. The guy who is like the assistant producer gets promoted to vice president of programming.
Yep.
And before he even like goes to the job to officially take that title, he starts canceling shows immediately. So he cancels the Banana Splits, even though it's a hit show. He doesn't like the show, so he's canceled.
And they said they're sold out weeks in advance.
Right. Yeah. So again, it's a hit show that has shows sold out for a month.
Right.
And he's canceling it as his first act of being the new vice president of programming. Which, I mean, in my mind, he would probably be fired immediately, because that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, but yeah, the guy's, the big typical production jerk, right? Your big
Yeah.
typical kind of executive jerk guy. Anyway, so he says it's canceled. This is the last show. It's being canceled today. So go out there and finish the show, and then that's it. So the robots overhear this, and so then they kind of like go haywire, right? So the show goes on as
Hmm.
normal, because obviously they're filming the show. They're still okay. And then after the show, the older brother talks to the page, who's like the person who like guides them around the stage and stuff.
And her name
Um,
is
Page, the page.
Paige.
And so the older brother convinces her to like, it's his brother's birthday. He loves banana splits. Can they come backstage and meet the banana splits? Even though they don't have the star on their ticket, which is the way you're supposed to be able to get that. She said, "Okay, that's fine. Come on back."
Yeah.
So yeah, we had the wacky hijinks of the banana splits on their show. Show's over. Then they go in the back to meet them. And so they go meet them, and of course they're like weird robots. And it seems on this alternate Earth they know that, because
Yeah.
they don't seem phased at all when they're like obviously robots. Like,
Correct.
so in this universe, that's a normal thing. Anyway, so there's a bunch of people that end up back there. There is yeah, mom, dad, older brother, younger brother, and the little girl. The dad leaves immediately, saying that he has to go take work calls. And he essentially goes out in the parking lot and starts taking, texts and calls from his like secretary slash girlfriend.
Booty calls.
Yeah. And then there's influencer and his wife, I guess we'll call him, like social media influencer guy and his wife. Then there's dad that's forcing his daughter into show business against her will, basically, and he's trying to bring her backstage so that she can get like noticed by the producers and get her own show or something, I guess is what they're trying to sell.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, so they all go back there, and they're all talking to the banana splits. It kind of comes out that the show is being canceled. Everybody kind of, freaks out and starts arguing about that, because obviously the people on the show didn't know that. So they're like arguing and stuff. And while they're arguing, the banana splits kind of leave. And then everybody else just kind of goes, yeah, whatever. We'll just go look at the sets, because nobody is paying attention to it. So yeah, influencer and his wife go walking around, and they find, again, a lot of this movie, I think, heavily skews on if you've actually seen the banana splits before. Because a lot of the stuff they're talking about, I didn't know what they're talking about because I didn't watch the banana splits. Anyway,
No, nor did I.
yeah, so they find I guess I should introduce the banana splits. There's 4 of them. The dog is the leader, and his name is like Fleagle. Bingo is the monkey, and he's yeah, Bingo the monkey, I guess is all you need to say there. Then there's Drooper, who's like supposed to be a lion, but he looks like a dog. And then Snarkle or Snorkel. I think Snarkle is like an elephant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay, that's it. There's the 4 of them, and that's anyway. So yeah, so they find like Fleagle's magic shop, and they're all like excited and taking pictures, even though they're not supposed to be taking pictures, but they're taking pictures and like live streaming, hanging out by this thing. Fleagle comes in there and locks the guy in like, like the saw him in half magic thing. Locks him in there and essentially saws him in half with the saw. The influencer
saws him in half by essentially just pressing on him.
Well, yeah, but he's a robot. He's got robot strength, so he cuts him in half with this fake saw. And then the kind of influencer wife just kind of like holds his hand and stays there. I guess I should say he proposed to her right before this happened, so she's like all in shock, and she just stays there. So the children, the other 2 go and find the jungle thing. And I think the older brother finds them, and then the older brother gets grabbed by Or no, the mom does.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mom gets grabbed by Bingo in the jungle. She manages to throw Bingo, like Bingo grabs her and brings her up in like the catwalk of the warehouse, and she manages to push him off and kill him by him falling to the ground. And at that point, they realize something's wrong, and they're trying to figure out a way out. Producer guy goes to go find, or no, the guy looking for the producer who's trying to sell his daughter to them goes looking for them. He finds out that the vice president guy got killed by Drooper. Oh no, not killed, but injured by Drooper. So when he goes in the office to talk to him, Drooper is in there and like burns his face with like hairspray or something.
Yeah.
Something like, anyway, burns his face with hairspray. Anyway, so the little girl runs away, and he just like sits there with his face on fire for an uncomfortably long time. And then they kind of cut to that girl ends up meeting up with the other two, the young boy and that girl that came with him, and then now that girl is with them. What else happens? I think that's it. They end up getting captured by the guy who like fixes the robots and built them.
Mm-hmm.
And he like locks them up downstairs because basically for their safety, because they're like a captive audience. Because to the Banana Splits, the show must go on, and since the show has been canceled, now they're like on a murder spree trying to like continue their show.
Yes.
So yeah, they end up escaping out of the room, but the guy loses a couple of fingers trying to fight the Banana Splits to like stop them from continuing the show, which he fails in doing. And then everybody kind of eventually meets up. The dad that had the burned face does survive, and then comes out and gets immediately. Oh no, they do like the game
obstacle
show
course. Yeah.
They force him to do the obstacle course, which they had done earlier on the show with a couple kids, and it was fun. But now it's like a horror version of it. So they go through that. The one producer lady has to do that with that guy. Essentially, they get to the point where they think that they won the obstacle course, and the one guy gets thrown off the tower onto the ground and dies. And then the lady's going to jump into the ball pit because she thinks she won, but instead she gets hit in the head with a hammer and gets
Big
killed.
Hammer.
Yeah. Yeah. So then, I think is that the point where they all go in the basement?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then they all go, and they all end up going in the basement because the guy with the missing fingers, the guy that fixed them all, says that that's where the show is happening. So they end up going down into the basement. They find like essentially all the rest of the audience members are all dead in a big pile.
Except
along
the
with
kids.
Yeah, along with the other Page. And we see that the Banana Splits had killed all the adults and the Page and taken all the children. And then they get to the end of it, and it's kind of like a boiler room looking thing, where all the children are like chained to benches and forced to watch the show where they murder people on stage. So they're essentially like having their show, but it's like a murder version of their show. And then as they come out to like the Wheel of Endings.
Yeah.
And the vice president guy is actually on the Wheel of Endings, and they end up like just tearing him, like essentially quartering him. Yeah. So then, I forgot the snarkle part. So where the little boy manages to like charm Snarkle into not killing them because somehow he's different than the other ones.
He's different.
Yeah. So, but Snarkle ends up running over his stepdad anyway. But Snarkle is apparently like nice. So Snarkle takes those three kids down to the bench and chains them up as if, the regular children are, but he ends up giving them the key. So as the show is going on, those kids unlock themselves, and then they help all the other kids get out. And then essentially there's like a big fight showdown where the mom comes in with a crowbar or something. Anyway, so they all fight. Yeah, they all fight. They all end up basically taking out all of the Banana Splits. So they all get down and they all, escape, I guess. So it's like the people that lived is the mom, the 3 kids, and then technically the stepdad because he survived getting run over. But after the police interview them and they leave, they show him like running after the bus, like saying I'm still alive, and then he gets hit by a car, and the car is being driven by the influencer's wife, who has taken all the bodies of the smashed banana splits and is taking them, assumingly, to the sequel.
Yes.
I probably forgot some parts, but I think that's it.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. So what were your first thoughts on this? This is your first time watching it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I spent probably the good first half of the movie trying to figure out in what world this exists in. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, okay, maybe this is set back in the 70s. No, they got cell phones. Okay. Is this like a revival thing where it's just, it's a revival thing that just happened for the show and they specifically say it's been on the air for 50 years? I'm like, okay, no. Okay, I guess it's an alternate Earth then. And then you see that they're
Yes.
robots and you're like, okay, it's an alternate Earth where an AI robots existed in 1968. Okay. They only existed for the sole use of the Banana Splits show.
Yes.
And in 50 years, they've never been used for anything else. Okay. Then I spent most of the movie wondering why is this movie taking place in this bizarre alternate Earth? And why is there no explanation for why these things have changed?
I mean, that's fair. It's fair.
Yeah. I mean, otherwise it's like, standard horror movie fare.
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously you and I are too old to have watched the Banana Splits when they aired. Or we're too young. Sorry. We're too young to have watched that.
Yeah. No, my mom watched it. My mom loved the Banana
my
Splits.
parents were too. My parents were too old for it because if it started in 1968, well, yeah, my dad was 20 at that point.
Wow.
So
yeah, my mom was a kid.
Yeah. So, I mean, so it doesn't get to our childhoods, but we knew the characters. Like we've seen the characters. I feel like we've all seen the characters.
No, yeah, I mean, I knew who
the song.
I knew who they were. I knew the song and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I was, there. I just never. I don't think I've ever watched a complete episode, or at least not in my adult memory.
Right. Yeah. So my first thoughts was, I'm like, other than Pinocchio's Revenge, there are other movies that exist that, take childhood things and kind of make them horror. But I feel like this was kind of the full beginning that we're kind of seeing right now that led us to make this episode, especially with the Pooh, Blood, and Honey, that a lot of the stuff is going public domain and we can do stuff like this now, right? I mean, they had to get the rights, which were probably really, really, really cheap to the Banana Splits movie.
Yeah, I'm guessing something must have happened there. So we're like, I don't know if the rights changed hands or if they became like super cheap or if they became like, I don't know, open source or something. Yeah, I don't know. Something must have happened. I don't know why they specifically picked the Banana Splits, but something must have happened.
Yeah. But, we know going into this that this is going to be a cheese-filled, campy horror movie.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. It wasn't trying to take itself too seriously. And that works. Like, if they're trying to take themselves very seriously, it would have been worse.
Well, yeah, that's like Pinocchio's Revenge tried to take itself seriously when it was horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you do stuff like this, you have to understand what you're doing and who's going to be watching this and what it really is. If you lean into the campiness, it works better than trying to fight it. Overall, I thought this was a pretty decent movie for what it is. What about highlights for you, though?
I mean, highlights. I mean, would be. I mean, I liked. I mean, again, I liked the whole robot thing.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it was just odd. I think I like the idea of it being an alternate Earth the most out of everything. Because again, once I had to finally land on that, I was like, "There's no way this is existing in our world. This has to be an alternate Earth somewhere." That was probably the most interesting thing to me is that it is in an alternate Earth. It is not in our world.
Correct. Because the banana splits went away a long time ago.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, they were only around for 2 years.
Yeah. Highlights for me. I mean, they were. Like I said, the idea behind it was really interesting. That I don't know if I thought about them being animatronics the entire time, or that they were once people in suits and then they just eventually replaced them with animatronics.
I mean, yeah, they never ever said that they were ever people.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it's possible, but they never said that.
So my guess is because in 2019, at this point in time, Five Nights at Freddy's was getting popular and there were always animatronics in that. And that's why they went with the storyline they did. Just to kind of jump onto that because no one had the rights to do that type of movie until we have this Five Nights at Freddy movie come out later this year, I believe. I think this is just kind of like a precursor to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many other things he could have done, though. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Chuck E. Cheese is still around, but do like Showbiz Pizza.
Well, I was going to discuss that with the next one. That's to me the next one. Willie's
Well,
Wonderland.
yeah, but they made at the next one they made up their own thing, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's good, right? I'm just saying, like, if you were going to go for an established franchise, why not go for one and where the characters were originally robots? Like,
Yeah.
I just didn't understand the point of why would you take a show which was a goofy people in suits that only lasted for 2 years and then fast forward it 50 years and then make them robots. I just didn't understand the whole thought process there. Like, you literally could have done anything else. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know why you had to base it on something that once existed but was a long ass time ago. Like, you could have just made your own thing.
Yeah, it was probably just for name recognition, honestly,
I guess.
which we'll discuss with the last movie of this. It's just, it had to have gone into some spot where they're able to get the rights to it for stupid cheap. Or
but again, like, okay, who's
something.
your main audience to go watch cheesy horror movies?
Teenagers.
Right. I mean,
and apparently their grandparents.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like, grandparents don't go watch horror movies. Like, who is the audience for this movie? That's the thing that was so bizarre to me.
I mean,
like,
we are
who's the audience?
We're not the age group technically for this. I mean,
okay, who is?
Movies, but
who is the audience for it?
I don't know.
I mean, it's like boomers that like modern horror movies. I mean, that's got to be the most niche thing I've ever heard of.
My father-in-law actually enjoyed this movie because he recalled watching the Banana Splits as a kid.
Would he have watched it if you didn't tell him to watch it?
He saw it, and he asked if he should watch it. I'm like, if you like Banana
he
Splits,
saw it on your thing.
Yeah.
in his normal life, would he have been exposed to this if you weren't in his life?
Probably not.
No, that's what I'm saying. Who is the audience? Like,
I don't know.
Anyone who looks for horror movies is not going to be looking for the Banana Splits movie, and anyone that would be interested in the Banana Splits is not going to be looking at horror movies.
They might watch this without knowing what it was.
Right. I mean, that's very possible, but like, you'd literally have to go into the search bar and type in Banana Splits.
Yes.
In order to be exposed to this. I mean, it's so rare. As I'm saying, I don't understand who the audience is. Like, why would you specifically pick something that old and then put a modern horror movie spin on it? To me, it doesn't make any sense. It's too far gone, and it's not a big enough name to sell anything. I mean, obviously this movie didn't go anywhere, but I'm saying, where did you think it was going to go?
Yeah. I mean, we're just old enough to know of the Banana Splits, but teenagers probably had no idea who the hell the Banana Splits were.
Right. I mean, again, We know
guess.
because our parents knew.
Yes.
Okay, but I mean, again, we're I'm not a millennial. You technically are, but you're on the very, very far end of it, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
most millennials and anyone younger than that is not going to know who this is.
Right.
So again, it's not. I just don't get the audience. Like, I don't understand what you're going for. I get you want to have name recognition. I'm saying, but you got to have something that's at least in the same realm to where these people are going to understand what it is.
Yeah.
And it's.
I don't disagree.
That. I mean, again, the audience would technically be us.
Right.
It would be like Zennials who heard about the banana splits from their parents, so they know what it is, but also enjoy modern horror movies.
Yeah.
Okay, but we're like a very niche thing. Like, you're going to make your whole movie for this very tiny little demographic.
Right. That's fair.
I don't know. I was very confused, but whatever.
Is that your low point just because of the whole niche thing?
Yeah,
another low point.
Yeah, the low point is just the bizarreness of why. I mean, you could have done your own thing, and it would have made a hell of a lot more sense than bringing in the Banana Splits, a known franchise. It's very bizarre.
Right. And my low point is clearly someone didn't adhere to the as laws of robotics when making these things.
Well, yeah.
This is like the dangerous AI, and this could have been in the Killer AI episode, realistically.
Yeah.
But I purposely left it off for this.
That's fair.
So, so how many childhoods ruined out of 10 would you give this?
I mean, I didn't hate it. I didn't really like it either. But I'll give it a 5.
A 5?
Yeah, 5 out of 10.
Okay, so not a rewatch.
No. No.
Oh, because you know me and my cheese, right? Me and my cheese, it'll bring it to a 7. I have no issues watching this. I've watched this number of times already since 2019.
So. No desire.
You watch it once and you're good.
Yep.
Got it.
I can say I've seen it. That's it.
Once again, this is why we watch bad movies so others don't.
Yeah. Right. And again, when we get into the last movie here, I'll get into more about the, trying to cash in on a franchise. I get that whole thing. I don't get what they were going for with this one. The last one, I totally understand it. This one, I don't get.
Yeah. All right. So I'll do the recap then for Willy's Wonderland, which came out, 2021?
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty recently.
Yeah. Let me say one of Nick Cage's finest performances.
Yeah. Well, not only that,
Realistic. Yeah.
He doesn't speak.
Not only that, but what?
At all.
Correct. He grunts.
But yeah, all of his acting is done by looks and physical acting. And he still does a great job. And it's so bizarre how he can literally be like the best of the best and also the worst of the worst at the same time. I mean, it's bizarre how he can do it, but this one he did a great job.
And let's be honest, this is the only name anyone's going to know from any of these 4 movies that we're discussing this week. Nick Cage.
Yeah, that's fair.
Hands down.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. So the movie starts off with kind of horror-esque people wearing Willy's Wonderland shirts and then being chased by some unseen entity and then being kind of dragged away. That's
with blood. Yes, there's blood involved. Yeah.
Yes. Then we cut to essentially Nick Cage's character from Gone in 60 Seconds, but silent with his muscle car.
Yeah. Yeah. Age him, what? I don't know, 15 years and then dye everything black.
Yeah.
Where we're at.
Yeah. That's about it. Yeah. Right? So he's driving and he gets all 4 tires, just what do they call them? The
spike strips.
Spike strips, what they call it. They call them something else like
They call them something, but yeah, they're
side tracks or whatever. Yeah.
They're spike strips.
Right. And so all 4 tires are gone, and while he's waiting for the tow truck, not saying anything, he goes into his trunk, and I had a hard time determining if that was beer or pop.
It's
and
pop.
I decided it said regardless, it's in a warm car, and he's drinking it like it's refreshing. That thing's got to be hot.
Yeah, it's Punch Pop is the name of what it is. It's Punch Pop.
But it's got to be so warm and gross.
I mean, yeah. So, dude, I know some people who drink this stuff room temperature. I can't do it.
Look, it was in a trunk. It was in the trunk of a car.
If it's not like ice cold, to me, it feels like syrup.
Yes.
And like if you drink it at room temperature, it feels like it coats your entire mouth in sugar. And it's just like, I feel like it like starts rotting your teeth immediately.
Yeah.
I need to drink it.
Very refreshing to him.
Yeah, it needs to be very cold, and it needs to have ice in it to like water it down a little bit.
Right. But anyway, his car gets towed. The guy's like, $250 for the tow, and it's about whatever for the tires. That'd be about $1,000. He gives him a credit card, cash only, and goes to the ATM. Oh, that's been out. We don't have internet here.
Yeah, the whole town doesn't have internet.
The whole town doesn't have.
Oh, we tried to get it, but then we didn't. Like, okay, you realize that like you can dial into a phone, right? You don't need the internet.
Yeah. But he's like, I got a place for you to work, and we get to Willy's Wonderland, which is, there we see before that we see a girl trying to light fire to the place, and she's kind of arrested by the sheriff, which kind of seemed like her mom.
Right. Sorry, a quick aside is the tow truck guy, instead of having a cigar in his mouth, it is literally like the end of like a giant Slim Jim.
Yes.
It's like a big piece of round beef jerky instead of a cigar. Anyway.
Yes. It's supposed to be a cigar, though.
Well, it's a beef jerky.
Yeah. So he's like, all right. So he gets there. He makes Tex like the state. It didn't say Texas, but Tex like the state. Exact quote from the movie.
Great state of Texas.
Okay. Yeah. And he shows him around like, you just got to clean, and I'll pay for your car. Here's a shirt. You are now an employee of Willy's Wonderland.
But how about that, man? One night of work for $1,000?
Right.
That's a hell of a deal.
Isn't it? And Nick Cage doesn't say anything. And he gets locked in the building. He doesn't realize it at the time, but he gets locked in. Okay, Something's going on. And he just starts, we see the animatronics that are there. This is clearly also a precursor to Five Nights at Freddy, where they couldn't get the rights, but also Showbiz Pizza or Celebration Station, the animatronic band things that we grew up with as kids.
Well, Chuck E. Cheese had it too.
I didn't go to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid. I went to
Showbiz. Chuck E. Cheese. Back when I was a kid, Chuck E. Cheese was like the Dollar General version of Showbiz Pizza. Showbiz Pizza was where it was at. Showbiz Pizza was the hotness, right? That was like everybody wanted to go to Showbiz Pizza. It was like, mom's like, oh, we're not going to Showbiz Pizza. We got Showbiz Pizza at home. And then Chuck E. Cheese was the Showbiz Pizza at home. It was the lame version of it, right? But eventually, I don't know, Showbiz Pizza, flew too close to the sun and melted itself and went bankrupt. And then Chuck E. Cheese bought them out and took over all the locations. And so then Chuck E. Cheese is now the standard. I think I don't even know if there's any other ones similar to that in existence.
Nope.
But they don't have the animatronic plot band anymore, I believe.
Right. That's the exact plot of Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
At Celebration Station had the bear band, the Country Bear Jamboree, not Country Bear Jamboree, but the bear and like mouse and stuff like that, gorilla on keyboard. Some guy bought all the stuff from Celebration Station and puts popular music and has them play it. So there's still people programming these things. It does exist, and it's in his basement. It's like Celebration Station Explosion or something like that. It's awesome. I love it. Anyway, but this is what this place is supposed to be like, and clearly abandoned, and there's graffiti everywhere. And I just gotta say, he tells him like, hey, it's very important that you take your breaks. So Nick Cage sets his watch like every hour to take a break.
I don't know. Yeah, they don't actually show how much time it is, but it seems to happen pretty often.
I'm assuming every time he takes a break and drinks a can of pop, it's an hour.
Can of punch pop.
Punch pop. Anyway, this girl gets her friends break her out of her mom's trailer or house or whatever.
At the trailer, buddy.
Yeah. And like there's a guy in there, we gotta get him out. Like trying to figure out how to get in. Anyway, Nick Cage is finding the most potent cleaner I've ever seen because he just uses the cleaner on literally everything. And it cleans up grease. It cleans up graffiti.
Well, if you look closely, the spray bottle that he has a different label for different things that he's using it for.
Oh,
like when he's using it to clean the oven, it says degreaser. When he's using it to clean the window or the mirrors, it says window cleaner. I mean, it does change the label. I'm sure it doesn't actually change the contents. I'm sure it's just the label change, but it does actually change.
But he does a really great job cleaning up the place, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But he gets I don't remember the creatures. You have
the first one that attacked him was an ostrich.
Ostrich?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it starts moving and it just goes at him and he just kind of kills it. Like fights it, punches it, and rips it off, and he gets soaked in animatronic oil. Let's call it that, right? Oil. And so he goes, oh, and he gets a scratch on his face from it. And so he gets duct tape, tapes the cut on his cheek, changes shirts into a clean one, then cleans up the mess that he just made and puts the animatronic into a bag. Realizes I think that's when he realizes it's locked. He can't get out. He doesn't say anything. Just goes back to it. Watch goes off.
He doesn't care at all.
No, whatever. Keep clean.
Right.
Watch goes off. Oh, it's break. He finally put his punch pop into the fridge, so it's cold at least. And then he sees like a pinball machine.
To be fair, he put it in the fridge, but like within the first 6 hours, which is when he's been drinking it, it's still not going to be cold.
Colder than it was in the truck.
I mean, that's true.
So he takes his break, sees a pinball machine, uncovers it, and but his watch goes off. Break over, back to work. Crushes the can, and goes on. Starts cleaning the bathroom. Does like the best job I've ever seen anyone clean up a bathroom.
Huh.
Like he gets every nook and cranny of that entire place, right? And then when he does that, all of a sudden he hears something in the bathroom, and he's going through, and then all of a sudden, from I don't know where, above the stall somehow, the gorilla comes out and attacks him.
Yep.
Slashes at his side and makes him bleed, but Nick Cage disposes of him, and then like curb stomps him multiple times on the urinal.
Right.
And he's messy. He duct tapes his side and puts a new shirt on, and then cleans the bathroom, and then continues onto the kitchen. That's all going on. We get a police officer from the next town over who's working with the sheriff. She's like, "What are we doing here?" "Well, if that phone rings, we just wait for that phone not to ring." "But what if it does ring?" "It won't." "All right." Yeah, we get a little backstory. He has a wife and a kid on the way. Pretty much it. Then he's going through. I think this is when the kids get in finally.
Yeah, they fall in through the roof.
Yeah, they're trying to convince them to. There's like 5 kids. They're trying to convince him to leave. He's just not talking. He doesn't talk. And then they kind of split off a little bit, looking around because they're there to destroy the place because they know bad things happen here. And like I said, he cleans the kitchen spotlessly, he cleans the pinball machine, gets a break. He hears them come in, does nothing about it because he's on break. He's not working. Right?
Correct.
Then the kids kind of start getting attacked. One of them gets attacked by, 2 of them get attacked by the alligator and the lady.
Yeah. Sarah the Siren.
Sarah the siren, he hears screaming, but he's on break. Nope, not my problem. So yeah, they dispose of at least one of the kids right away. The girl's trying to find him. Her boyfriend is hiding in like a space rocket. Two of them are having sex in another room.
The super happy fun room.
The super happy fun room, yes. Um, yeah, so he kind of, he is able to kill I believe he kills the alligator at this point. But doesn't care about the kids killed. Oh, watch goes off. Time for a break. So he stops what he's doing and goes takes his break and plays the pinball machine while the main girl starts yelling at him. You have to help. He says nothing. In the fun room, the couple in there gets killed by. I don't remember all the animals and creatures in here. There's a lot.
Yeah, but I think there's like 8 of them, or 6 or 8 something.
Yeah, Willie Wonderland is a weasel, so he's the only one that's been stationary this entire time.
Yeah, there's like Tito the turtle.
Yeah,
Sarah the siren. There's like the chameleon one.
Yeah,
the alligator, the monkey, and the ostrich.
Yeah, but they're here screaming. He goes, and they're getting killed. And then after the two of them get killed for having sex, break over, and he goes and starts fighting them and isn't dispatch anyone there, does he?
I think he kills the alligator.
Okay. But we still have the siren, we still have the turtle, we still have Willie the weasel, and we still have what did you say, it was a mermaid or whatever that was? The rocket room?
The rocket room. It's a chameleon.
Chameleon. Anyway, so the boyfriend calls the phone, it rings. I'm here in Willie's Wonderland. She's like, haha. Guy goes, what was that? Oh, just a prank. He calls back, like, oh, your daughter's here. Shit, we gotta go. And we get a whole expositional backstory of that. She's like, why would you tell the new cop this? Which is bizarre to me. That kids started disappearing there, which, like I said, once again, Five Nights at Freddy background. They realized that something supernatural with these animatronics and that they need to feed, and they were going out of Willie's Wonderland and killing people and feeding on them. And so, they were going to tear it down. The guy who was going to tear it down was found eating like a hamburger, even though his guts were just slightly hanging out. He didn't look like eating like a hamburger at all. Then they realized that to appease them, they made a truce. Don't hurt our talent or our people. We'll bring you people, drifters, vagabonds, morally corrupt people, as they called them. And they would bring them in there, and using the same thing they did with Nicolas Cage character, was they would just get rid of them and feed them to them. And they always were promised, it's always the same scenario. Like they show the montage of it, we get your car fixed up, or we get a roof to stay. You'll do this, you'll do that. One of them was a little girl that her parents were killed, but she survived. And that ended up being the little girl or the teenage girl that's the daughter of the sheriff. So yeah, like I said, I don't know why she's telling this cop from next town over all this stuff anyway. So they get there, realize that he's surviving. In fact, quite thriving in this scenario. The chameleon talks to the boyfriend. It's like, I won't hurt you. I'm not like the others. And then she uses her tongue and kills him. He gets handcuffed. The daughter is taken away, but I think the turtle escapes. He's handcuffed and starts fighting the siren and seemingly breaks her neck with just his legs. And then he's able to break out of his plastic handcuffs. And then, it's close to the end of the time. And then he gets prepared. He puts his cans of punch pop into a bag. He tapes like a couple of broomsticks together and then faces Willie the weasel himself and just wrecks him. just like beats him to death and rips off his head, covered in oil. Uh, the girl's taken away with the cop, and she's like, the guy's like, all your, she's like, you're brainwashed, you're into this too. The cop gets killed by Tito the Turtle, and she gets away and goes back to get him. And essentially he's done for the night. The sheriff gets killed, right?
Yes.
The lady sheriff. And then Tex shows up with his new car. They fixed the car, which is surprising. And then bring it there. It's like, here's your new car. Great, add my collection. Look inside. He's alive, and the place is perfectly spotless.
Right.
So it's like he just holds out his hand, gets his keys, gets into his car, and she goes with him. They kind of drive away, and then you see the siren was actually alive. She came out of the bag and sets fire to Tex and the beef jerky chewing guy,
right?
And blows them up as well as her. And as they're driving away, Nick Cage's character, who's just called the janitor, by the way, no name, just the janitor, opens up a can of Punch Pop, starts to take a sip, and stops and hands it to her, and they drive off. They see Tito the Turtle still alive, and they hit him and explode him. End of movie.
Yep.
First thoughts? I know you've seen this one before. This is not my first time or second time, I believe.
Yeah, no, yeah. I watched it when it first came out.
For what this movie was, I remember discussing this with you and the D&E group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Surprisingly damn good movie.
It is. Well, see, this is I mean, technically it would be camp, right?
Yeah.
But it's done well. Obviously it takes a ridiculous situation, but it makes it fun. It makes it good. And this is the kind of camp that I like. Okay, like it's done well, it's tasteful, it's just a good movie. It's fun to watch.
Yes.
Like most camp, and like it tries to take either one, it takes itself too seriously, or two, it kind of leans into the like, ha ha ha, we're a terrible movie. Isn't that funny? Which is again not funny to me. This is obviously has some production value, right? They tried. Everything looks great, everything's done. I mean, it still looks like low budget. It's not like they spent, $100 million or anything. But they did a good job at what they had, and and it shows. And it's just a great fun movie.
Right. And when you lean into Nick Cage, letting Nick Cage be Nick Cage, it works really well.
Right. Well, and again, but they didn't try to force him, because you could tell the movies that they try to force him in, and he does like the goofy, vampires kiss freak out type thing. Like that is, again, it's, you're just forcing him to be Nick Cage, which again, don't force him to do anything. In this movie, you could tell he was just having fun. He was just doing his own thing, right?
Oh yeah. And it seemed like he had a blast doing it.
Yeah. And again, it's great. I mean, it says a lot of his talent that he can like literally the entire movie he doesn't talk, and it really doesn't matter.
Yep. No, it doesn't.
No.
Yeah, he just grunts. Like it's not even like a little one line at the end. He literally does not talk. Does not utter a single word.
Nope.
The entire movie. Yeah, like this is. I have hopes that since we're gonna have like a big production with Five Nights at Freddy, and we have Blumhouse doing it, and Matthew Lillard's going to be in it, that maybe it will be good and what this can be. But I don't know if it'll beat Willy's Wonderland because Nick Cage made that movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
we'll see.
It can be done well. It can be done bad. I mean, we won't know until we watch it, obviously. But
right.
I just based on experiences with horror movies, I would probably lean towards bad, but I'm just throwing the odds. I don't know anything about the movie. I'm just going with the odds.
No. Like highlights, this seemed like a better production value of Banana Split's movie. It felt more like so we had the old days with Showbiz Pizza and Celebration Station, and I guess Chuck E. Cheese. And this movie was geared towards us.
Well, okay, but this movie did it right. Okay.
Yeah.
This movie played heavily into nostalgia.
Yep.
Right? Because we all know those type of places, but it didn't try to use a specific license. It didn't have to. You know what I mean? We
It made its
understand. Yeah, we understand the concept. We don't need the actual name of something to go along with that.
Right.
But again, yeah, nostalgia instead of names. So like I think like Stranger Things did the same thing, where it's nostalgia. You recognize all the pieces of it, but it's a new thing. You know what I
Right.
mean? And that to me is interesting. When you just rehash the same old stuff, that's not interesting to me. And it shouldn't be interesting to anybody else, but apparently it is.
Yeah. So like I said, highlight Nick Cage and the well made movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like the lady sheriff, I recognize her. I couldn't tell you her name. I've seen her in other stuff.
Yeah, she always plays like a mom.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, those are my highlights. What about your highlights?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Nick Cage. I mean, he does a fantastic job in this movie, and it's over the top. It's obviously ridiculous, but he does it so well, and the movie works so well that you don't even notice.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he did fantastic job.
Yeah. Low points, like, you understand why people are brought into horror movies. They're just there to get killed. But my goodness, the acting of those teenagers were atrocious.
I mean, yeah, I mean, some were worse than others, but yeah, that's again,
that's in horror movies. That's what you get.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
this.
traditional horror movie acting.
Yeah,
that's normally the way that it's presented. That's just the way it is.
Yeah. Of course, you have the horny teenagers that have to do it in like the most disgusting place ever.
Oh, I mean, yeah. Can't have a horror movie without a sex scene.
Exactly. What were your low points, though?
I don't know. Honestly, there's not really anything that like stands out as a low point. I mean, there's some things that I wasn't like too fond of, but again, that's just because it's it's just again they're skirting that line of cheese, right? So like,
Yep.
But they did it well. Like 90% of the time, it falls on the good side. There's a few that fall on the bad side. Like you said, it's primarily with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the whole story of how like the place existed, and then they did like a satanic ritual and ended up in the robots. I mean, that's ridiculous and goofy, but that's not a bad thing. I like that. I'm trying to think of it. It's something that I could like pull out that I disliked, and I can't really pull out any one thing. I didn't like that the guy was chewing on a Slim Jim. That bothered me because the next day he was chewing on the same Slim Jim, which means like he either kept it in his mouth while he was sleeping or he took it out, put it on a nightstand, and then put it back in his mouth in the morning, which is disgusting.
That's fair. That's fair.
And he should have had a cooler car.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I mean, the new Camaro is, cool-ish. Don't get me wrong, but he should have had what was the name of his car in Gone in 60 Seconds? They had the name for it.
I told you, it's just his character in Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yeah, what was it, like Dolores or something or Lucille or something? I don't remember.
Lucille.
It was the car had a name. It should have been that car.
Yes, I don't disagree. Yeah. All right, so for me, number childhood ruin out of 10. Like I said, this was like I thoroughly enjoy this movie. Like this is always on the rewatch list now for me. And it's hands down better than anything else. I'm going to 8.5 on this one for childhood ruin out of 10. What about you?
It's a solid rewatch. I'll give it a 7 out of 10.
7? Okay.
Yeah.
No, like I said, I was not disappointed with rewatching this movie. Was I disappointed with rewatching Pinocchio's Revenge? Yes, I was.
No, yeah, this movie again. I watched Pinocchio's Revenge after I told you it took me like 3 hours to get through it, and afterwards I watched this movie directly afterwards as a palate cleanser, and it worked well for that. It was fantastic in that respect.
Yes. All right. So why don't you bring us home with our last movie?
Okay. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to get one thing out of the way. Okay, his name is Winnie, right?
Yes.
Is Winnie the Pooh? He's supposed to be a Pooh bear. That's like, I guess, the breed of bear that he was, correct?
But he's always called Pooh. Is that
Right.
where you're going? Yeah.
Yeah. Why does everybody just call him Pooh? I don't understand. Like, his name is Winnie. Why does everybody just call him Pooh? They'd be like, "Hi, my name's Frank the dog. What's up, dog?" Like, my name is not dog.
Well, they always call him Pooh or Pooh Bear.
Right. It's just odd to me. I don't know.
In the cartoon, it was always that way too.
I know.
They never call him Winnie.
Again, it's just bizarre to me. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Blood and Honey. We start off with a little animated story. Basically, you're not quite as happy as the traditional 100-acre wood that we're used to where the all the characters were there. So you have Winnie the Pooh, you have Piglet, you have Owl, Rabbit, and Eeyore, but they're abominations is the word that they used. They're like somehow human animal hybrids that are terrifying to behold. But Christopher Robin makes friends with them. And he basically brings them food every day, and he hangs out and he plays with them. And he does that for a good number of years. I mean, they explained that, he met them as a child, and that he hung out with them every day until he went to college. So I'm assuming at least a decade in there, right?
I was saying 10 to 12 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So he goes off to college and, apparently tells them, sorry, I got to go to college. I'm not going to be here to take care of you. You kind of got to fend for yourself. They are unable to fend for themselves and they essentially start starving to death. And that, when winter hits, they get, desperate because there's no food. There's no, they're all going to die. So essentially they make the decision to kill and eat one of their own. And of course they pick Eeyore. So they kill and they...
Oh, bother.
Yeah. So they kill and they eat Eeyore to survive the winter.
Yes.
And because they have to do this, they basically declare their hatred for Christopher Robin, who abandoned them and stopped feeding them and made them fend for themselves, in which they could not do. So this act that they had to do, they blame on Christopher Robin. They basically blame all humans for rejecting them as well, but specifically Christopher Robin. And then they also decide that they're never going to talk again because talking is what humans do. They're going to go full animal and only communicate as animals do.
We'll discuss that issue with that later.
Right. But this is the description that they gave us before the opening thing. End of animation, start of live action. Live action, we see Christopher Robin with his new wife after college is bringing her to the forest, the 100-acre wood, to see his friends because he's told her lots of stories about them. She doesn't believe them. And, I mean, rightfully so. And he's going to bring her to this forest to show them to her, to prove to her that they do exist.
And it's only been 5 years since he left.
Right. It's been 5 years.
It says 5 years later.
Correct. Yes. It says 5 years later. So they go in the 100-acre wood and they're looking around for them and they find their like home that they had found before, but now it's like a kind of dark, twisted version of their home. Right. There's like kind of like, evil looking chains and hooks and stuff. There's weird like Airstream trailers around. Like the homes look like they're all dilapidated and beat up. It looks like a hillfolk lair is what it looks like. So they go into
that's
I mean, any other horror movie you've seen where there's hillfolk and you get to their lair, that's what it looks like. It looks just like that. A bunch of like wrecked cars and trailers and junk and like weird houses that look like they're about to fall down and stuff.
And no, this isn't England.
Correct. This isn't England. This was filmed in England. It's set in England.
Yeah.
Everyone has English accents.
Yeah.
So they go into the house that used to be the house that they all lived in as children to kind of see what's going on, and it obviously run down, looks bad. As they're in there, they kind of sort of realize, okay, this isn't going the way we hoped. We need to get out of here, right? This does not look good for us. So as they're going to leave, they hear somebody coming up the stairs. They hide. And they hide for a very long time because they show like it was daytime when they hid, and it cuts to nighttime. So they'd obviously been hiding for a few hours. Though whoever it was came in and is snoring underneath blankets, but we don't get to see who they are. So they're sneaking out. And as they're sneaking out, they're caught. And they're caught and attacked by Piglet, right? Or both of them? I think it's
Piglet.
I think it's Piglet. Just Piglet. Anyway, so Piglet comes out, looking like it's a bizarre looking like big human with a boar's head, essentially.
Very tusky.
The tusk and everything, yeah. So that they basically choke his wife with a chain to death, and they basically capture him and start torturing him. He starts screaming, why, and then it cuts away.
Yeah,
and then we don't get a time break after that, but we start going to a bunch of girls. Well, no, actually, it's one girl who's in a therapy session who is very stressed out, and her therapist tells her she needs a break. She needs to go somewhere and disconnect for a while. So instead of...
From the trauma, which is not explained.
Yeah, the trauma is not explained at this time. But instead of like her, just doing like a disconnect thing, anywhere else, she decides to go with all of her friends into the middle of the forest, which is okay. I guess different people have different ways of relaxing. I guess that's a way of relaxing. That's not my way of relaxing. I can say that. Anyway, so they're all going to go and hang out in this Airbnb in the woods. There's supposed to be 6 of them. 5 of them show up. I guess it's kind of their one flaky friend, like oversleeps or something. And she's going to get there later. So anyway, the 5 of them get there, and it's a really nice house. It's really nice in there. It's got like a pool. It's got like a hot tub. It's like a nice vacation spot. 2 of the girls, I believe, are in a relationship.
Yes.
It's a very bizarre relationship. It seems like they're very like standoffish with each other. Like the one girl, gets like rose petals, making a heart on the bed, and they're playing like love songs when they go in the room, and the other one is like very turned off by that. I don't know. It's bizarre. Like, yeah, they're supposed to be in a relationship, but they show zero chemistry and like they don't even want to be around each other. It's very weird. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. That's really the only time it's ever mentioned. But it was just a really weird scene. Anyway, so they all decide that they're we all got to turn in our phones, and we're all gonna have a nice unplugged weekend, and we're gonna have fun. And the only one that has a problem with this is like the Instagram girl, who is like obviously the aesthetically obsessed one.
I like to call them TikTok whores.
Wow. Whoa. These are some dark words there, buddy.
I know, TikTok, that's a bad
So, Instagram girl, she is immediately takes her phone back. And then she goes and puts on all kinds of makeup and puts on her best swimsuit. And then goes out to the hot tub and immediately starts just like taking pictures and, again, doing all Instagram type stuff, but she's out there by herself.
Yep.
And everyone else is inside having a therapy session. And this is where we find out that the trauma that the girl had was because, she was essentially being stalked. She had seen a chair by her window with footsteps. She was like, oh, that's weird. That's odd. There's one night she got up to go get a drink of water. And she looked out the window and there was a guy staring in the window.
Yep.
And she screamed, she called the police. they couldn't do anything because nobody was there. But essentially, she eventually went back to bed. And then as she was sleeping, the guy got into the house and was undressing her in her bed.
Yep.
To where she woke up and screamed. And I'm guessing, I don't think anything else happened. They didn't describe anything else happening. But I mean, very traumatic. I'm not saying it's not
absolutely.
Traumatic. I'm just saying, like, I believe that ended there. So she's been like super stressed. She doesn't like being home alone. She has problems sleeping. Understandable. So this is supposed to be her healing weekend.
Yes.
So her friends are all like, oh, we're here for you. We didn't know that stuff. Anything we can do, let us know. So Instagram girl is still out in the hot tub taking pictures of herself, and she's checking to see which pictures she's going to upload. And then she looks in the background of one of the pictures and she sees the bear, right? Yeah. The Winnie the Pooh bear.
Yes.
So where she's all like, oh no. Oh, I guess the other murder happened first, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, sorry. Friend. The flaky girl, this was earlier in the day. The flaky girl was lost. And she tried calling everybody, but since everybody had turned in their phones, she couldn't get a hold of anybody. So she went to when she tried to call him, she was like sitting in the middle of the road. Anyway, so she goes to like this what is it, like a service station? That's like all overgrown with ivy and stuff like that. Anyway, she gets there. She meets Winnie the Pooh, who is like this big hulking hill folk version of Winnie the Pooh. I mean,
he's Leatherface size.
Yeah, he's giant.
Winnie the Pooh.
He's giant. Yes. He's giant hill folk Winnie the Pooh. And he just like smashes her face against the wood chipper until she's essentially dead, and then he throws her into the wood chipper, and then she gets, whatever, ground up,
pulpified.
Yeah. Right. So sorry, that was the first kill. So second kill is Instagram girl. She goes to get back in the house, and then she's like, you know what? I'm not gonna let these people ruin my good time. So she goes back in the hot tub.
Yep.
And so Winnie the Pooh and Piglet drag her out of the hot tub, drag her in the middle of the driveway. Winnie the Pooh gets in the car.
They hog-tied her.
Oh yeah, sorry. They hog-tied her, and Piglet was holding her down with a sledgehammer in her back. Yes. And then Winnie the Pooh started the car up and then drove it over her head.
Yep.
And we got a pretty graphic scene of her eyeballs popping out as her head was being squished.
Yes.
By the car. And then they leave the body there. And so then the other girls, they decide, the two girls that were in a relationship go upstairs. And the other two go out to check on Instagram girl. They obviously see her dead body. They scream and run back in the house. Now they see a message in blood on the window saying, "Get out."
Yep.
So they realize, maybe they're inside the house. No, the blood's on the outside. Oh, I guess they're outside. We should get a weapon and we should hide or whatever. I don't know what they were doing, but so they split up again. And they go to, two of them go upstairs to go find a gun that was in a drawer.
Yes, she had a gun. The main girl had a gun because of the stalker.
Right. But that gun was a gun. I mean, it was a 50 caliber revolver. I'm like, wow. Yeah. Not the kind of gun you normally give people in that kind of situation, but hey, whatever works for you, I guess. Right. Anyway, so the other two go out to the pool, which is like an indoor pool. It's like a lap pool. It's not very big.
Looked disgusting. I'm just going to throw that out there.
I mean, the pool looked okay. It was just weirdly small.
Yeah. Like, it was 3 feet wide.
Yeah, again, it's like one of those pools that, like, that whatever, they like shoot water out of jets and you like swim in place. It looked like one of those kind of pools. Anyway. So yeah, they go out there. Piglet comes in with his chain and his hammer. The girls fall in, or no, one girl falls in the water and tries to get away from him. And he, she's barely touching the ground. She's like bouncing off the ground, but he's like so tall that he can just walk back to the deep end. And essentially finds her down there and just smashes her with the hammer. And she's just down. And so the other girl is just screaming as this is happening. And essentially the other two girls come out with the gun, but they just grab her and then run away. And then they run away and they run into the forest essentially, and they end up going to the hideout that we saw with Christopher Robin and his wife earlier. So the hill folk hideaway. They end up getting there. They find another woman there. I don't know where that woman came from.
I believe she was, when they went to that station, there was an older couple that was there. I believe it was the woman from that couple.
Right, but they made it seem like they knew her. I don't know. It was a very weird interaction. Like, I think there was like a deleted scene there somewhere where they like got to know each other or something.
Something like that.
It seemed like they knew each other, but they like, again, this is the first time we're really meeting this lady. Anyway, so she's like obviously been tortured. It's like she's like tied up and tortured.
Missing an eye.
Yeah, she's like missing an eye. She's obviously been beat to shit. So they free her. And then they're trying to escape, but that lady sees her own face. She sees what they did, and she decides that she's going to go get revenge on them. So she takes the gun away from the one girl, and then the other girl is going to just hide behind something, waiting for this to happen. And then she grabs the gun, and then she's screaming to like try to get Piglet to follow her. And Piglet comes out, and she shoots one time, I think, just to get their attention. And then when she goes to shoot him again, there's no more bullets.
No, the gun stopped working.
Well, whatever. She was pulling the trigger and it was clicking.
It jammed.
Okay, but when a revolver... Okay, one, revolvers don't jam. Two, if they do jam, that means that the revolver is not turning and the trigger is not pulling, both of which were happening because I was looking at the gun. So I don't think the people understand how guns jam in this game. But again... To me, it just seemed like they only had one bullet, which is stupid. Anyway, regardless, the gun doesn't work. Piglet essentially kills her, attacks her, and kills her. The one girl whose girlfriend was murdered by Piglet, she finds his hammer and essentially goes after him and ties him up and then, basically tortures him and I guess kills Piglet because he doesn't show up again after this.
Correct. He's dropped like a sack of potatoes.
Right. Yeah. So Piglet has been killed at this point. So all that's left is Winnie the Pooh. So Winnie the Pooh is chasing the two girls that are left through the woods. They end up on a road and they see like a truck headlights moving towards them. So they wave them down. And like four good old boys get out, right? So they see this big old bear looking thing.
Hey, you Panda Bear.
Yeah, hey, you.
You're kind around
hey,
here.
you freak. I mean, yeah, they're all like just, screaming at him, being stupid. So they all go, oh, we'll take care of him. Has he been chasing you? Has he been scaring you? We'll take care of him. So they all get
like,
a
girl.
Yeah, bat, which I thought was funny is like, the guy,
they're the good guys.
An English guy had a baseball bat, which I don't believe for a second.
Cricket bat, sure,
right? Yeah, but it was a Louisville Slugger that he had. I mean, it was like a real baseball bat. I'm like, okay, this does not seem like the UK to me, but whatever. So they all get out and they all surround him and they're all like talking all kinds of shit. And they hit him in the head with a crowbar and he like flinches from it because you have to, and then he like turns back. Like nothing's happening. And they're like, oh, I guess you're tough, but you can't take all of us on. And so they all just start beating on him with the crowbar and the bat. And one guy's just got like a bottle of champagne.
Yep. Champagne.
Yeah. So he smashes him with a bottle of champagne. And for some reason, that is Winnie the Pooh's turning point. He does not like being smashed with a champagne bottle. So when that happens, he turns and just like slashes the guy's face off. And he runs back to the car, trying to get in the car. The girls don't want to let him back in the car. And he just basically proceeds to just murder all of these guys. Except for the last one who tries running away. And I'm assuming bees kill him?
Yeah. So the running thing is there is blood and there is honey, and Pooh drinks both of them together. So bees kind of follow him every once in a while because of the honey. So he's able to like command a swarm of bees. Right.
But they don't, one, they don't explain it. Two, they don't show it. I mean, and again, whenever the bees only show up exactly twice in the entire movie.
Yes.
One time was when they looked and saw him through a window, and then like some stuff flew by. That was it. That was the only warning we had before this. And the second one is like some weird stuff came flying out of the woods in the middle of the night and attacked this guy. That was it. There was no other explanation, no other visuals, nothing is happening.
I like to point out that Winnie the Pooh karate chops people's limbs off.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. Well, I'm assuming he's like using his bare claws or something. I don't know what he's doing.
They don't show claws.
No, they don't.
He
just looks like he has regular yellow hands. But he looks like he's just slapping people. But when he does it, he like tears.
Slap.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it looks like he's doing. But he's like tearing off flesh when he does it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he kills all those guys. He comes back to the car. They start the car and basically try to run him over. Or I guess they do run him over. And they're driving, and of course he survives, and he climbs in the back of the truck. He gets, to the top of the truck. They slam on the brakes and he falls. But of course they crash at this point. So they're all bloody and all stunned. And when the one girl wakes up, Winnie the Pooh already has her other friend and he's dragging her out of the car. And he brings her to the front of the car in full view and just like cuts her head off.
Slap.
Yeah. I mean, just like cuts her head off, throws her head at the windshield. And so the girl, just kind of screams and gets out and is trying to run away. Of course, falls down. Winnie the Pooh's coming after her. And then, I guess I skipped the whole Christopher Robin thing. Okay, I'll rewind a little bit. One, they do show a scene of Christopher Robin is still alive. And he's being like essentially chained up and tortured by Winnie the Pooh. So we see like he's like trying to ask him to stop. He's like, "What's going on? How come you're not talking to me? I thought we were friends." Winnie the Pooh looks like he has like an emotional moment looking in the mirror, like, "What have I become?" And then he just grabs a whip and just starts whipping Christopher Robin.
Now he grabs a like braided hair.
Yeah, well, it's like a hair whip, whatever. It's a whip.
Yeah. Yes.
And then he whips him a whole bunch of times until he's bleeding, and then he picks up his wife's like bloody skeleton and puts it next to him, I guess just to mess with him. Anyway, when the girls are then escaping from the Hillfolk hideaway later on, they run into Christopher Robin and they free him. And then he says, "Okay, you guys go ahead. I'll catch up." And then he's gone. And this is the first time he comes back.
Yeah.
So yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to do there, but we did have to bring it up. Otherwise it doesn't make sense. He shows back up. Anyway, so he gets another car from somewhere and he hits Winnie the Pooh with his car and he sandwiches him between the two cars. Winnie the Pooh appears to be dead. So Christopher Robin gets out of the car and is comforting the girl like, "Oh, are you okay? Let's go off into the sunset and be friends." And then, of course, Winnie the Pooh gets back up, pushes both cars away from him, completely unarmed, and then goes after them. And there's kind of like this standoff where it kind of seems like Christopher Robin is like appealing to his better half, that he may be like, getting into his head and like, "Okay, we can be friends again. Like I'll, let her go. I'll come with you and I'll do whatever you want.
I will never leave again."
Right. I'll never leave again, blah, blah, blah. And so then Winnie the Pooh basically speaks his only words of the movie and he says, "You left." And he just slits her throat.
Yep.
And then she bleeds to death and Christopher Robin goes, "Oh no." And then the movie's over.
And the very last thing is Winnie the Pooh will return.
Yeah. Winnie the Pooh will return.
Yes.
So that's it. Yeah. Movie over.
So, we did go see this, Salem and I, yesterday.
Yeah.
In a packed theater.
Well,
it wasn't very big.
A small theater, but it was packed. Yes.
Yes. Yes. So what are your first, obviously this is our first watch. What were your thoughts on this movie? Initial thoughts?
It's interesting. Essentially it's like your typical kind of hill folk horror movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? That's essentially what it is. They put the Winnie the Pooh and Piglet face on him. You know, obviously gave him like a realistic horror looking face, but I mean that's essentially what it is. It just they put those faces on there, but essentially it's just a hill folk horror movie, you know, with honey scenes in it.
It's Wrong Turn meets Winnie the Pooh.
That's exactly what it is. I mean, I was watching the movie waiting for Owl and Rabbit to show up, which they did not at all.
Well, when in the drawings they showed a skeleton of Owl, and they showed a spit with a rabbit on it. So they clearly cooked and ate Owl and a rabbit.
Oh, they did? No, they didn't.
Yeah, it did. It was one of the drawings. Yeah.
Are you sure? I don't think.
I am positive.
All right.
It was in like the newspaper clippings when the newspaper clipping montage about all the murders that have happened around the woods.
Yeah.
Because they became cannibals, essentially, since they're part human, so half cannibals. I don't know what you want to call that. Yeah. And is also missing Rue and Tigger.
Well, they weren't mentioned though.
No. So I'm wondering if they're coming back for the sequel. Maybe.
Maybe. I'm just saying, like I didn't see anything with them. All of the drawings when they were describing them surviving showed Owl and Rabbit there.
Right, but there was another part where they showed the skeleton, the bird skeleton, and a spit with a rabbit over a fire.
I don't remember. No, I didn't see that.
He must have blanked it out. No, yeah. I mean, I'm going to rewatch this when it comes out on video on demand as well. So I'll double verify that.
All right. Well, they didn't make it clear.
Right. You're correct. They didn't make it clear. They only explicitly said they ate Eeyore.
Right.
Which you'd think you'd eat the
that's the thing. Like
when they rabbit first.
When they went to their little town, you clearly saw the gravestone of Eeyore.
Yes.
There was no other gravestones.
Correct. I think they only cared about killing Eeyore.
I don't know about
crazy.
I don't know about that. I guess I'll have to watch it again. I don't know. I don't think they're gone. I just don't think they showed
up. We won't. I mean, as we discussed the movie afterwards and the crowd, this was a special screen, like only one showing a day, and it's always at night. Just because this was such a low budget horror movie, let's say. And I was surprised there was no trailers ahead of it. Like there were, but like the movie started exactly at the right time.
Yeah, no, it did. And there's the funny thing is like the people were walking into the theater. Like the movie was already on for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And people were coming in and sitting down. I'm like, you guys missed the whole first 20 minutes of the movie.
So you have no idea what's going on.
Well, yeah, but then, I mean, obviously we found out why, because they were just sitting there playing on their phone and talking the whole time.
Yeah, and playing music.
Right.
But
again,
I mean, yeah, my thoughts, like, okay, I think we knew. We've seen enough horror movies to know what we were getting ourselves into when we went to go see this.
Yeah.
Right. And there's already talks about a sequel of this, him doing Peter Pan. He wants to do a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one like this. They're planning the whole universe of this stuff.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I don't think is going to happen.
Probably not. Maybe Battletoads.
Yeah, no, Battletoads, I'm sure. I mean, Teenage Mutant Radioactive Black Belt Hamsters, sure, go for it. I'm sure that'll happen. But I'm just saying, like, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's no way, dude. They've rebooted them like 4 times, and the last time we rebooted it was just a couple years ago.
Right.
There's no way those rights are open. And there's no way that they would let those rights go to that. There's no way.
Unless they give Eastman enough money.
They don't. Trust me, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is a lot of money behind it. That's why they keep rebooting it.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, we knew what we were getting ourselves into. And here's a thought. Yeah, that's my first thought. We knew Gareth Simpson too. And I wasn't disappointed by it. I'm going to watch this again and again, more than likely. You know, well, I'll discuss my low points when we get to that point. I think you might have the same low points as me. What about highlights for you, though?
Highlights for me was the animated beginning.
It was great.
It was fantastic. I mean, the animation was terrible. It looked like somebody like drew it with pencil on a piece of like regular paper.
Yeah.
But it was done well. The narration, the way that it was like presented and described, like it was fantastic. The whole movie could have been like that. I would have been fine with it. Like I would not have been upset at all. It was great. Like that to me was like, this is fantastic.
It sounded like Rob Zombie's Dr. Loomis.
Yeah,
Didn't it?
a little bit.
But it's British, so I mean, maybe that's. But I can see him doing a voiceover work for that. Quite honestly,
Malcolm McDowell.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it was him, but I thought one of the good old boys was Taika Waititi for a minute.
It's yes.
It looked just like I'm like, there's no way he's in this movie, and then it showed him from a different angle, and it wasn't him. But I was like, there's no way.
And then like a British Danny Trejo.
Right? Yeah.
Oh no. He they look like they could have been in Mad Max. Quite honestly.
Yeah.
Right? Like one of them looked like a good old Australian guy, like the mutton chops, and
Well, he had an Australian accent too.
yes,
He had the sleeveless button-up flannel,
yes,
and the Crocodile Dundee hat.
right. And even their car was two cars put together, right?
Right.
I'm just like, did we go to Australia all of a sudden? Like, what happened here?
Right.
Highlights. I mean, as absurd as the movie is, I don't know a lot about Winnie the Pooh. I was never a Winnie the Pooh fan as a kid. But I'd say they got the essence of the story of Winnie the Pooh. Like the whole childhood part of it was, I'd say, fairly accurate. Maybe not the freak hybrid pigman stuff, but
Well, I mean, they were like bears that could walk and talk. So I mean, it's not a big stretch to say they were like, half man, half beast abominations.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like this movie was better than I was expecting.
Yeah, no, yeah,
what I was expecting. Yeah. What about low points for you? I want to hear what your low points are. I might know what mine are.
I mean, low points. There's several of them, but they're basically just how ridiculous those women were. I mean, obviously, like Hot Tub Girl, it's like, dude, seriously, like your friend is here for a therapy retreat, and you're out there, like in makeup and a bathing suit, like no. You know what I mean? Your friends are here for an adventure, and you're not even paying attention to them. Whatever. It was
right.
She was just a very, very shallow person.
Yes.
But I think the lowest point for me is I don't know what they did to that poor woman. But the one woman when she was like in the hillbilly hideaway, they had her like laying down on like, I don't know if they were gonna like butcher or whatever the hell they were going to do, but they had it like tied up and she was laying on her back, and they gave you a profile of her entire body. And when she was laying on her back, the way that, I don't know what they did, if it was like a weird push-up bra or if they had like a girdle on her, or I don't know
like the 50s bra that was perfectly pointed.
Yeah, it was like one of those, but it was like, so her body was so bizarrely shaped, it looked like a triangle. I mean, seriously, like her breasts were like coming out of her neck, and they were going like straight out, and then they came in a sharp angle down. I don't know what they did to that poor woman, but I felt so bad for her. But you think with like the kind of extended scene that they had, like profile linked like that, you'd think they would like see, oh, that looks terrible. Maybe we should take the girdle off of her or something. But no, they left it. They left it in.
Yeah. Here, ready for my low point?
Mm-hmm.
They shunned humanity, but they sure had no issues using humanity's tools and cars.
Or clothes.
or clothes.
Right? Like if you're going to shun humanity to the point where you won't speak human language, but you're still going to wear hillbilly clothes.
And know how to drive a car and use a hammer and have trailers. And like, I'm like, okay, you want to shun humanity. And there was not a lot of human things in Winnie the Pooh from what I can remember.
Well, they lived in houses.
Right? But not houses, like a tree or
well,
a
it was
cave.
a tree that had furniture in it.
I know.
It was a house.
But I'm saying is, okay, that's when they were accepting of humanity. That part's fine. They go, we're shunning humanity. Oh, wait, let's use all these things that humans have. That's what made it more hill folk, more wrong turn than I think they should have been. They should have been able to like make spears out of wood or use, Piglet, gore someone.
Well, yeah, if they truly shunned all of humanity, they would have been running around on all fours, totally naked.
Right.
Making pig noises.
Right.
I think they just put that in there to explain why they don't talk, because I think they probably couldn't talk in those masks.
Right. I understand that, but I feel like because they said they shunned humanity, but they clearly didn't. It's just for speaking. They decided they should have said they didn't want to speak human language, and that would have been fine, but not shun all of humanity and all of their things.
Right. But I mean, yeah, he was wearing like overalls and a flannel and like Timberlands, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And they were clean, which means that he's doing laundry, which means that he's pretty like human. I mean, in his actions and stuff. Like, I mean, that he doesn't talk is pretty stupid, considering if you're doing laundry, I don't know of anything more human than doing your own laundry.
Oh, also, I don't know many bears that would kill something and go wash the blood off of them.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, it's yes, I can agree with that. Very pick and choose with their animalistic shunning.
Yeah, and so maybe we'll get back with more Christopher Robin because he's not gone, and Pooh is coming back. So that's my low point. Just I'm like, all right, like you're picking and choosing your own rules here. You make the rules, establish it, and follow it. But no. So, number of childhoods ruined out of 10 for you on this one.
6.
All right, so it's rewatchable with a drink.
10, yeah.
I mean, I said I'm going to rewatch it again when it comes on demand. I'm watching it with the wife. I told her what happened. She's like, "Not Eeyore." I'm like, "Oh bother! I guess you should eat me."
That's right.
Like they needed to have that there because he was very depressed, to say the least. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's better than the Banana Splits movie, but not as good as Willy's Wonderland. So I'm going 7.5. Yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see where this goes, right? Because there's this whole, part of why we're seeing this, part of why we're discussing this, and there's been a lot of probably fake controversy about this stuff because people are upset that they're taking childhood things and making them horror, which you could arguably say that most of our childhood things were quite graphic and horror from the original stories, from the original fairy tales and stuff like that, and they toned them down. And then these are just kind of bringing them back, I would say. Right?
That's fair, yeah.
Because Grimm's fairy tales were not happy things.
Well, right.
Right. So I'm perfectly okay with them continuing this trend. I would love to see this trend happen more.
Well, they tried to do it. They've tried to do it multiple times before.
Yes.
Like, I mean, how many Hansel and Gretel movies do we have?
Right.
It's like 4?
Yeah. I mean, that was right. And I think, that should be in the woods ones for us. New Hansel and Gretel.
Well, we could do a whole show on Hansel and Gretel. There's at least 3 that I know of.
Yeah. Or like Grimm fairy tales. But
Well, there's
I'm
a lot of those.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything that comes out would ever taint like my childhood memories of the original thing. Like I'm still, when people always say, "Oh, this ruined my childhood," that this movie, this remake or whatever or sequel that's 40 years later gets rid of your memories of what you enjoyed from the first ones. And I can just go, that movie's bad and still enjoy the originals, right? And I don't think they're ever going to make something here that's going to make me like not like it, because it is horror movies. I'm just trying to think of what properties I'd love to see go this way. I mean, I feel like there's so many things that could go this way.
I mean, do any of them. I mean, that'd be great. Anything that's a Disney movie that you can counter with a horror movie is good in my book.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm hoping this trend continues where we start getting more good ones, because going through those lists, there's been some atrocious ones, and we didn't even hit those on this episode.
Thankfully.
Other than Pinocchio's Revenge. There's a whole other skew of this thing that people always get upset by it.
Well, they get upset. Well, again, they're getting upset because this movie does what I was talking about before, what the Banana Splits does not. Is that this movie, like Winnie the Pooh, has been popular for a very long time. And it continues to be.
Isn't it like 100 years at this point?
Well, it's over 100 years. That's why it's in the public domain, because the original books are over 100.
Yeah.
But and Disney tries to stop people from doing this kind of stuff, but they can't stop it anymore. That's why this happens. But Winnie the Pooh is still popular. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, people still know what Winnie the Pooh is. People still know. So essentially Disney has, this probably Winnie the Pooh that's been popular for, however many, I don't know when their Winnie the Pooh shows came out, but it was a long time ago. I mean, it was, older than me, and I'm pretty old.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they've been, they persist, right? They've been popular for a very long time. They've stayed in the, knowledge of everyone. Like, even kids, nowadays know Winnie the Pooh, and every generation.
Oh, my kids know Winnie
back,
the Pooh.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Right. And like all the way back to my parents, probably maybe even a generation further than that, knows who Winnie the Pooh is. It's never gone away. It's always been right there in the pop culture, pantheon, right?
Yeah.
Now, so like Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey makes total sense, because if you can make a horror movie based on a still popular franchise, why wouldn't you do that, right? It's an easy name recognition thing. People go and watch it. Now, this is what I feel like the Banana Splits had to like manufacture, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were like trying to pretend, like, let's pretend like the Banana Splits have been popular since they came out, like exactly like how Winnie the Pooh was, right? Winnie the Pooh was popular when it came out, still popular today. Banana Splits popular when it came out, died in 2 years. Nobody gave a shit after that. Right. And so they manufactured this alternate Earth where people still give a shit. So where now the movie makes sense because the people still like it today. Which again, I didn't understand what the audience was, but it's really like a movie like this that makes sense to me why they would make it, and they tried to like force that. But it's again, they had to put it in an alternate Earth in order for it to even make sense. That's how stupid the idea is, that they have to go make an alternate Earth where it even makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. No, I hope this trend continues, because, I don't necessarily like the idea of Disney owning the stuff, considering Disney didn't own the original books. So they shouldn't be able to own those rights. And I don't think they should be able to own the rights to the Grimm fairy tales and that stuff. I think it's public domain, so it should stay public domain. Yeah, it's the same name, but you already took that story from someone else. It's not your original.
Well, and now they know that. And now that's why all of their new stuff is all original. Because they know that nobody can take that away from them. But when they started out, they were still playing off of known things. Like, all of their earlier stuff was all known stuff. Again, like Winnie the Pooh, Peter Pan, Snow White, all this stuff was already existing. right?
Mm-hmm.
They got it from stories from somewhere else. I mean, like all the way up to like, Little Mermaid, Aladdin. I mean, those were all stories before they got their hands on it.
Yep.
So now they understand, like, oh yeah, well, we shouldn't have done that. It's like eventually, it's going to be public domain, and people can do whatever they want with it, and then it's going to be like, our franchise is going to be tainted, like Blood and Honey taints their Winnie the Pooh vision. I'm sure.
I don't think it does. I think they're separate enough that I don't think people are going to confuse them.
Oh, I know that. I mean, it's fine for me. It's fine for most regular people. I'm just saying, like, Disney execs don't like it. And moms that, clutch their pearls when anything bad ever happens, they're going to be very upset by it because it's something that their children love and that they might be confused because, again, they think everyone's an idiot. Mostly because they are.
Think of the children.
Yeah, it's just... Get over yourself. I mean, these people get upset about everything. So again, I can see those people being upset, but again, they're going to be upset at anything. So.
Correct. Right. So, all right, cool. Like I said, overall, it wasn't a horrible week. The best of weeks. Either.
I mean, it wasn't the greatest. It was better than M. Night Shyamalan, at least.
Right. So we got that going for us. For this
right.
Week. All right, cool. Anything else to add to this?
Nope.
Okay. So what are we watching next week?
Stay tuned for next week as we dive into our March director spotlight. We're doing Brandon Cronenberg. We'll be watching 3 movies. We'll be watching Antiviral, Possessor, and Infinity Pool. And of course, as we know, spoiler warnings ahead because Infinity Pool just came out. So if you want to hear us ramble, you have to make sure you watch it before that.
Oh yes, I'm excited. We did one spotlight on his dad. We're doing Brandon next week. I'm excited for this.
Yeah, but we just got to wait for him to star in his own movies, like how David Cronenberg started Nightbreed.
Yep, it's coming. I feel it. I feel it. All right. Well, then on that note, this has been Graveyard saying, "Have you checked on the children?"
This is Salem saying, "Long live the new flesh."
Good night.